in the 60s and 70s, we were forced to sort of go to Russia so we could barter and get aircrafts by selling potato and rice, hay for aircrafts in barter, so for goods items. So that was Russia.
I did not know this part. This is
Say
interesting.
Again, talking to one person in the Obama administration at that time. Okay, she was reporting, and she had come to Ukraine under the instructions of one guy who was in the Obama administration. We had the Euro Maidan protests in Ukraine, threw up leaders. We had India against corruption protests in India, which threw up leaders.
Yes, exactly. True. Thank you so much for joining Resonant News once again. I'm so glad that you're back here, because last time we had ended at a very important topic, CDS. And I would like to start from the same point today, that, the CDS's position is still empty. And last time when we were talking about Mi-17 crash, and that video had gone viral. It was like, it had got good amount of audience. And so I'll start there. We have 3 candidates. What do you think of them?
Look, for the CDS position, I strongly believed in the CDS position because I strongly believe that Army, Air Force, and Navy has got 3 different roles to play. Clearly, it is not that one is dominant over the. There was this thing about some statements made here and there, but the issue is, it's like 3 fingers. Okay, you got 3 very strong fingers. Okay, we got the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. Individually, they've got enough strength, but if you fix it into one, it becomes a fist. All 3 of them together. And that is the way I look at it as a CDS position. So, you need I strongly believe that there should be someone who there is a joint command. There's been a lot of things have been tried and tested, but if considering that India, like, we have a very large Indo-Pacific region to protect, there is a very aggressive China, belligerent dragon in the neighborhood, and I think the naval chief or the Navy or even the Air Force has got strategic arm or the depth. So it is a larger region. So I think the thought process in the headquarters should be that all 3 services, it should be open. That's my view on this.
That also reminds me, this time we have the first sapper, first engineer officer as the COS. So we can see the change everywhere. It's a beautiful beginning. Yeah.
I think I'm forgetting the name, but the United States have had engineers lead the army. So, so it is. Why not? It's about time. We have had helicopter pilots and all kinds of people. There's no harm in it, because beyond you're not fighting. You're thinking on a strategic level at those positions.
I really wanted to know your opinion on US's role in creating narratives, which is happening right now. Because, from what happened during 9/11, they had started off war on terror, and then suddenly war on terror comes to an end with an abrupt end in Afghanistan. And then suddenly Russia-Ukraine war starts, and the world gets to see a new monster, who is not a terrorist, but again, it becomes, we get back to that Cold War era. And how do you see this, and what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, again, when it comes to the USA, I've got lots to speak about the Americans and the way they have dealt with the world. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of friends. I love Americans, but there is something seriously wrong with the way the prism through which they view the world. I strongly believe that they are convinced that their way of solving the problems of the world is liberal democracies all over, everywhere, and problems solved. So we all know about the Monroe Doctrine, and which was written in 1823, which has been the cornerstone for entire U.S. foreign policy making, successive governments. Then it came to 9/11. Since you spoke about 9/11, post 9/11, Bush, the Bush administration, the Bush senior in 1990s, 92 or something, yeah, 89 to 92, 92 onwards, which was the first Iraq when Saddam Hussein decided to invade Kuwait. That followed the September 9/11. Okay, 9/11 in under Bush Jr. So Monroe Doctrine till then. So it was right through 1823 onwards to World War I, then World War II. We went through all this period with the United States convinced that, okay, liberal democracies around the world will solve all the world's problems. And we've had many instances of various places where US is, we know about the missile crisis in Cuba. We know about how Venezuela has been strangulated, literally out of existence as a country. Okay, they are all communist. They're all left-leaning. So one country which has always opposed them throughout is somebody who stood initially against the US domination or their idea of this one world, unipolar world. Everything is the American way and nothing else fits. That has to change. Their thinking has to change, and they use liberalism as a way of dominating the world. This is entirely my, so, and after 9/11, then came the Bush Doctrine. Okay, that was these are the two major ones, the Monroe Doctrine followed by the Bush Doctrine. Monroe Doctrine was pre-World War I, when the European forces where, America was in this domination or the, space struggle with the the European forces, which was Spain, or we had the UK, the Britain dominating most of the world. Then we had France, which had colonies. We had Portugal. All these European countries had colonies all over the world. So Mr. James Monroe, that time, and he comes up with the doctrine that the entire Western Hemisphere belongs to the United States of America. That clearly, that was anybody can Google it. Any of your viewers can Google it. It's there on internet. It says any country trying to enter or forming relationships with any country in the Western Hemisphere, the United States is at full liberty to take it as an act of hostility, and they can, it's like I can't come to your neighborhood and shake hands with anybody else. That's it. You will throw me out. You will attack me. You will destroy me. So this was basically the cornerstone of Monroe Doctrine, was that nobody can go into the Western, which by Western Hemisphere they meant was the Americas, the North America, technically Canada, USA, down Mexico, further down south, Chile, and the North America and South America technically with Europe. So none of the European forces can come there. But then they took it, and that became the very strong foreign policy for every successive president, whether it was Roosevelt, Kennedy, everyone. And that then followed the World War I, where, I can talk about it. There was a lot of things, how America entered World War I also was through deception, where the president decided that they had to attack Germany. They created a situation of an incident in the Pacific. And then to basically tell the American public that, okay, we have to attack Germany and we have to establish democracy there. Then only, so that was World War I. Then you had World War II. Post World War II, the United States probably realized that Soviet Union was a very strong force, that time, because it was only when the Soviets entered when Germany got battered very badly, when Germany decided to attack USSR. And so that is when the US went around the world post World War II. That is the start of the Cold War till 1989, where series of they formed 3 treaty organizations. It was not, NATO was not the only one the USA formed. There was one which was formed as this central treaty organization, CETO.
Which
and
had
there was
Pakistan
one for
at some point, I think.
I'm not sure if Pakistan was part of it, because but this is post World War II, so Pakistan must have been. I'm not sure about that. But many countries in the Middle East, okay, and then in the Far East as well. So so they formed 3 organizations basically. It was NATO, followed by SATO, and for the East also one organized, CATO or something. The other two just died off. NATO prevailed. So that is when the NATO has been pretty much used by the USA to. I think now NATO has become the Europeans are just following whatever the USA. Literally they are being treated like slaves, in my opinion. The Europeans. I'm talking about Britain, UK, Germany. All these countries are pretty much even if they want to speak against the United States, they can't. So literally, because they've been helping and then post World War II, they established 800 bases around the world. 800, the USA. Because that was okay. We will give you democracy, liberal democracies around the world. So 800 bases around the world. We've got. So it has always been about global domination. It was that one power, unipolar world. And there was somebody who always stood up against them. Literally, was erstwhile Soviet Union, or then the currently Russia. I've got it written down actually here about the Bush Doctrine, since we spoke about 9/11 and post 9/11. We had, I want to just read it out. The USA says this is the Bush Doctrine, which is basically what the Americas are following even today.
Oh.
Defending the US, the American people, and our interests at home and abroad by identifying and destroying the threat before it reaches our border. Nothing wrong in that. While the US will constantly strive to enlist the support of the international community, we will not hesitate to act alone if necessary to exercise our right of self-defense by acting preemptively against such forces to prevent them from bringing harm to our people. Basically, this doctrine states that I can attack anyone because I think that you are a threat to me. I think that you own WMDs.
Yeah, yes,
it's another matter that I'll bomb your country down to rubble. I might find WMDs, I may not find WMDs, but look, I'm moving as per my doctrine. I think you got some weapon. So this from 9/11. So there is these, there was Kosovo, there was Iraq, there was Libya. About Libya, I can tell you a story, Levina. Libya, I've got a friend whose wife is Tunisian. Okay. Tunisia is next door neighbor to Libya. And, he was telling me the other day, he was telling me that she used to say that when Gaddafi was in power in Libya, two girls in their 20s could pick their car from Tunisia, get into their car. I'm talking about a 25-year-old. That means it's not years back. She's or 30-year-old or something. They could pick their car, drive to Libya, Tripoli, do their shopping, and drive back. When Muammar Gaddafi was in power, that was the Libya. But what was shown to the world? That he's killing his own people. Of course, there is sectarian violence everywhere. And he was foolish to disarm when the UN and the NATO told him to take his weapons off. But again, he did the mistake was that he went against the USA. That's it. That was his mistake. So he had to go. And today, the same lady saying that I can't step out of my house in Tunisia. 2014 in Ukraine, there was this, what is it called? Maidan revolution, right? That was the start of this, the eastern Ukraine and western Ukraine, the Donbass problems. 2014, during the revolution, I don't know, just note this, Victoria Newland. Victoria Newland was inside that gathering in Kyiv, in the outskirts. She was standing there and talking to the US ambassador, and she was controlling the revolution.
True.
Victoria
there
Newland.
is a leaked tape of it. You're right.
It is on BBC. So it is available. It's on open source. It is available. So Victoria Newland was there giving instructions to the US ambassador, and the Russians, they hacked in. The whole thing got leaked. They had. But I want to just point out one thing to you is that, I just while reading about it, one thing curious is what she was talking to EU. She literally uses curse words. She says the F word, EU, we don't care about them. We need to get this guy in power. We have to remove Yanukovych, who was actually pro-Russia. She was talking to one person in the Obama administration at that time. Okay, she was reporting, and she had come to Ukraine under the instructions of one guy who was in the Obama administration, Joe Biden,
Yeah.
who was the vice president. She was literally reporting to Joe Biden. And today, what is going on? Who is the president of USA? You know, so it all can be linked. And I don't think, like, look at social media. You find everywhere Putin, you know, whatever is trending. You open Twitter or anything, is that Putin the killer, Putin the murderer, Putin, Vladimir Putin, the war criminal. It's trending all over. His budget, his defense budget, is 1/3 the size of UK. You think he wants to go in and hold territory and take over countries? He's got a country to take care of. You know, you literally. So this is the deception war, which you was talking about, this post 9/11, and that's the way the United States functions. Just going back to this narrative building, which the USA does in every country. Just back home, this Euro Maidan was supposedly a spontaneous protest against the election, a corrupt president, and etc. And it threw up many leaders who were literally. They are not even hiding the fact. The Azov battalion, they're calling themselves Nazis. They are saying openly, and nobody knows that since 2014 to 2022, there are 14,000 civilians who have been killed by these militia in eastern Ukraine. So literally, I feel that, you know. So this is the narrative building which goes on. I can go on and on for the next 2 hours.
It makes a lot of sense, because the narrative is almost always created by America, because all the media houses and everything is under their control. And this is why it makes sense when Dr. JaiShankar goes and abolishes, and he just does not let that narrative build. He just destroys it at the foundation. Yeah.
I am so happy that somebody is calling the bluff. People needs to call the bluff and say that, hey, come on, let's speak the truth here. Or what, and about when, and he just shot right back when this narrative. Where are all our intellectuals from India flying to whenever they want to spread a narrative? They're all in most of the universities in the USA and, taking awards. And so just a connection. We had the Euro Maidan protests in Ukraine, threw up leaders. We had India against corruption protests in India, which threw up leaders.
Yes. Exactly. True.
If you really search, if you scratch, there is so much to see below the surface. So much. Very, very interesting. So and in today's world where we got, I don't know how many billions of people are hooked onto social media on various platforms, it is not difficult to create a narrative. You just need to, that way. So Elon Musk buying Twitter is. I was skeptical. I'm still skeptical of one person, but look at Mark Zuckerberg. So only thing is that the world should know, everyone on social media should know that what you see can be shown to you, basically. It's simple. You don't know what is actually the story. And every story, the effect of, again, when you say about this narrative building, the effect of the war can already been felt around the world. Gas prices, the food prices. Look at Sri Lanka. Many countries in Africa. So we are looking at a very, I think, very disturbing period ahead for the world. So, and every country is, frantically looking and for, like people are searching. See, I'll tell you again, there is a food shortage coming up. Remember, Ukraine and Russia produces 26% or 30% of the world's wheat. That means 1/4 of food is off the table. The world was already starving. This is what probably, or was it created? I don't know. Maybe.
No, you're right, because Russians started moving to Ukrainian borders immediately after Biden was chosen as the president. I think
No,
Putin was pretty much exact.
yeah. So no,
By
actually no.
By April, they had 150,000 people at
Levina,
peak.
but see, there are again, it's a very the stock can go very long then.
So,
Crimea, like 2014, when this Euro Maidan happened, what is the next action which Putin took? Or when I say Putin, his party is backing him. The government of Russia took was they annexed Crimea,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
Why
yeah.
did they annex Crimea? Because of
They're based.
exactly, it's got the
Yeah, yeah,
one of the two warm water ports for the Russian
exactly.
Navy. So Russia has got two warm water ports. One is in Crimea, and one is further south, which is in Syria. Now people are wondering what was Russia doing in Syria? It was protecting its assets in Syria. I don't know if anybody has thought about it, because there were only two warm water ports in that region. Rest everything freezes up in winters, which is one is in Crimea and the other one is in Syria, further down south. Precisely the reason why they went in and supported Bashar al-Assad, because he's got a base there, and his navy is ineffective without these two ports. So he immediately moved in and took over Crimea. Subsequently, they had a okay. I know that the referendums can be again manipulated or solved, but they had a referendum in Crimea, and you should know this: almost 80% of Crimean population voted to be with Russia.
True.
80%. Now the Donbass region, the east, is the same. So I personally don't think that this guy has got any interest in taking over anything. I don't think he is trying to protect his assets and protect his country. I'm telling you, at some point, the Indian Prime Minister tomorrow they turn around and say, oh yeah, this guy is fascist. He has to go. And then what? You create. Yeah, it's so easy. We got so many people inside India ready to, there are so many willing soldiers inside our country to burn our country. So where does it stop? So that is the deception. I hope, but even with this Ukraine thing, nobody thought about talking. Nobody spoke about diplomacy. Like I said, anyway. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please don't be. This is exactly why we have this interview. Now I'm coming to the Indian context of it. So yeah, again, India is definitely getting impacted, especially Indian Air Force, because many deals have been cancelled because India is balancing, and one of them is the deal where India was supposed to buy 48 Mi-17.
Yep.
So Mi-17 helicopters from Russia, and how is it going to like how are things going to develop as we move forward, because we rely on Russia from submarine to everything.
It is, I think, like it's a very difficult period for the Indian government or the people who are in government. But the good part, there is a positive side and negative side. But for this Mi-17 helicopters, 48 helicopters being cancelled, whatever you said, it doesn't worry me much in the sense that you have already, India has already produced this ALH, Advanced Light Helicopter. More than 300 are already been produced. I was just looking in open source, and so there is a fleet replacement plan in place. And Russia, we've always had issues with spares. Okay, so spare parts, and so we have replacements. That's what I would say. So and this government also is pushing for Atmanirbhar Bharat and indigenization. They have just cleared a lot of Indian companies to enter private-public partnerships. That's the way to go, because end of the day, we have to this. You can't depend on others to protect your soil. You cannot. Most of the helicopters which HAL has been building, the problem, because I got some test pilots and I was talking to them, the problem they have is that because of the terrain, they have to build a helicopter from, capable to land at 20,000 feet to the sea level. Nowhere else in the world, no other air force has got this problem. It's specific to India. So it's most of our machines are an overkill. So I think the Dhruvs should move into that gap, and we will have more Dhruv units coming in. And then, even Rudra is the attack version of the advanced light helicopter. There are sufficient numbers being produced. So again, HAL will have to get its act together. That's why the government is opening up for private players to come in. That's one way to spur defense production, is one way to spur economic growth as well. You can export, like we have the Su-30s. One good thing about the Su-30s is we got the IPs, we got the production licenses from Russia. So most of it are being manufactured in India. We are supporting governments which are operating Su-30s, like Vietnam and I think it is Malaysia, which operates Russian equipment. You have to think ahead, So I don't. Number one. Second is then one thing. This current government, or also even the previous government, was starting from 2007-10 onwards, is they have slowly tried to wean away a little from the Russian complete dependence on Russia. You can't put all your eggs in the same basket. You have to spread it out, at least for the interim, till you achieve the required production at home. This Apaches and Chinooks, they're all feel good, nice to have, but long term you have to start producing your own, right, as a country.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned it, because it looks impressive in the sky to have a Chinook and a Patriot.
It's a lot of. Firstly, it's a lot of money. End of the day, it's a lot of money. None of this equipment, even if it's a bolt, it is a lot of money. I remember years back when we were flying Alwards in the Airforce. Alwards has got a thread. It's a woolen thread on the nose. Okay, it's outside the helicopter to see that the helicopter, while flying around, is balanced. You know what is the cost of the thread? It's a woolen thread, like what you have on your hand. That's it. $95.
Oh.
So what I'm saying is, so these equipment come at a price. So it is not that you can have 5 Black Hawks or 10 Chinooks, and maybe it's nice to try and spread it up a bit, but build up your own capability. And I think the Air Defense Establishment, ADE, under the DRDO, is doing a fantastic job. Fantastic job. They are doing a fantastic job. I hope HAL can cope up with that, of the quality standards. But we got to be thankful to the Russians a lot, because by producing the Su-30 MKIs in India, what it has given HAL is technological know-how of creating aircrafts. And then going forward came the Tejas, the light combat aircraft, MMCA. So, which is I think it's great. The government is rightly trying to bring in private players, which is good, because end of the day, that's the way, because government can't produce everything. People have to, so yes.
So you already mentioned Atmanirbhar Bharat. That reminds me of Macron, who has been re-elected as expected, but Macron is a person. India loves Macron, and he has been expressing interest in investing in Indian companies, especially because of the defense corridor which is coming up. We already have Rafale, this thing, and India wants another 114 fighter jets to be produced in India by a foreign company. How do you see all this? I want to know how France will play a role in India's future.
See, we just mentioned Atmanirbhar Bharat, but for sure we are a long way off, because as a country, because we have neglected that part of defense production, and everything was that in the 60s and 70s we were forced to sort of go to Russia, so we could barter and get aircrafts by selling potato and rice, hay for aircrafts in barter, so for goods items. So that was Russia.
I did not know this part. This is interesting. I did
Yeah,
not
yeah,
know this part. Oh, interesting.
yeah, yeah. The initial sale of Russian, that is how the Russian equipments are, of course. And then I, 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 I firmly believe that India was always ruled by, I will say undercover communists post-independence. So it is always left-leaning. We have always been, our policies have been that, socialism, and probably at that time it was required because the country was drained dry, and then we had famines, and so we were poor as a country. America and Britain that time sided with Pakistan, which was a theocratic country, and whereas these two democracies went the other way, and it's always been maybe the Pakis sold themselves better than India. I don't know. So we were forced into Russia the dependence, and then it grew into defense cooperation. But one good part was that we always depend on technology transfer like MiG-29, Su-30s, which helped India grow its defense capabilities, defense manufacturing capabilities. And I feel that look at the MIC, the military industrial complex in the US, how powerful they are. So that's again, end of the day, weapons are money. I don't know, one of those guns, Kalashnikov 203s, AK 203s are being manufactured. India has already manufactured something like 300,000 or something has already been manufactured. So, and that's all in the defense corridor, and so
Exactly.
which is a book which is very good. Yeah. So the Russian dependence was like now what is happening is HAL has been managing to sort of become Atmanirbhar, at least on the Su-30 part, which is a very powerful aircraft. It's a and then there is the BrahMos, which is jointly developed again with Russian cooperation and DRDO joint. But the joining of the Su-30s with the BrahMos was done indigenously by DRDO. So there was no Russian role in it. Then India's they're developing the beyond DVR missiles, Astra, which is again indigenous. Which is DRDO has developed. So BrahMos, we all know, it is a bloody effective defense against a lot of, sorry about my language.
No,
So
it's
yeah,
like, yeah, it
and
makes people go crazy, true.
now HAL has gone to 90. Their plan is to produce this completely 90% in India. So all the spares. So we have got a factory running. We are producing our aircraft. We have the Philippines, which bought BrahMos. So that is a way India should go eventually. Now to your question about Macron and France. Like Russia, if there's one European country which has stayed with India right from day one, post-independence, has always been France. They have had their restrictions of being part of NATO, etc. But France and India has been like, and I think the biggest common factor between these two countries is soft power.
You've yourself been to France, so yeah, I'm sure you know it better.
Yeah. So, France, strategically, they are like, if you see, de facto, they have sort of become if you look at Europe, de facto, these guys are the leaders of Europe, France. They are the chair of the European Union right now. From 1st of January 2022, I think France is chairing the European Union. Even if you see between the US and Russia, France is looking at a way of mediation, and they're in the middle of they're also doing what we are going through of trying to do a balancing act.
Exactly.
Because Europe is badly dependent on Russia for gas and oil. When this war, ever since the war has started, Russia has become richer by, I don't know, 30%. They have become richer. They made more money because what happened? The oil prices have gone up. When the war started was something like $60 or something. Now it is $180 something. Imagine the profits these countries are making. Europe cannot de-link themselves from Russia. Not in a position. So we'll see in the next weeks how this plays out. In weeks and months about this Russia-Ukraine situation. So France has always been with India. Traditionally, France has been. They are one of the remaining colonial powers. I don't know how many people know this, which has got a sort of presence in every continent in the world. France. Yes. Okay. France has got their presence everywhere. And then we talk about Quad. We talk about, everybody, it's like, it's a nice, fluffy, it's great. And of course, going forward, because what started as an economic treaty, and then, because of the rise of China, balanced out. Now, people don't know that there was, in every Quad exercise, apart from Australia, USA, India, Japan, there was one more power which took part, which is France. So it's been defense cooperation, always been going on. And when you said about Atmanirbhar Bharat and France manufacturing in India, France has already been manufacturing in India. It is not that they're new. Scorpions, the Scorpion class INS, there's a bunch. Actually, the sixth one got commissioned about last year, I think 2021. The sixth one rolled out. 6 submarines were built. Where? It was in Brazil, partly in Brazil, and in Mumbai, Mazagon Dock. So it is not that France is new to, they have been. We've had defense cooperation. Safran engines are very much, Safran is present in India. India-France cooperation has been there. Something like 160 companies of French. You can do your own study on that one and put it up, which are already in India. And it is not one way, it's bilateral. There is more than 100 odd companies, Indian companies operating in France. So,
interesting.
So, yeah, it is very, very strong. So it is a very strong cooperation, and it is great because, and main thing is that it is on equal terms. Even during Manmohan Singh's time, the previous era, the leaders had a good equation, the presidents. And in my opinion, if you have to pick a best politician in the world, apart from, of course, PM, the Indian Prime Minister, you have to pick a good politician, in my opinion, would be Macron. Terrorism is another thing. The counter-terrorism operations, India and France has been cooperating for a very long time, Yeah.
The only country which stood up against Pakistan, be it maintenance submarines and.
Yeah. So and even post.
Yeah, they've not shown any qualms about saying it right in front.
And that's how the French are. They are very in your face. If they don't like you, they will tell you. And and even Macron, when he speaks, he doesn't mince words. He is very, very straight and very to the point. But we should not let go of Russia, because of the way they have helped India and throughout. Yeah.
So next, I move to this audience question that would India be relying less on air support and depending more on the cruise missiles and suicidal drones in future? What is your opinion?
I think absolutely. The days of the traditional wars are gone. Of this where the Air Force, again, Air Force has still got a role to play. But I think going forward, like with BrahMos, why did the Philippines buy those BrahMos from us? Because it's because and you have a few missiles like that, you have armed yourselves, and you technically don't need a very large army. Like classic case is not Korea. I'm not a fan of that guy, but he's got the right weapons in his hands. So if you have the right missiles, it'll do the job, of deterrence. Basically, what you want is that. So I think moving forward, the armed forces should transition into a more strategic force than a localized tactical force. So for which missiles and like combat UAVs and all these are probably the future for the future. And even for the terrain we operate in, technically we lose a lot of machines because our terrain is very hostile. Be it helicopters or be it even jets, and we faced that in Kargil where we had flame outs on MiG-21s, and where because of the altitude, rarefied. So the drones and the missiles are probably the future.
So there's one more audience question. It was about the squadron strength. How do you think it's going to change in future? Will there be more squadrons added? And, you know?
I was just again. I'm going from media reports and general what we pick up. I saw one of the statements by the Indian Air Chief that we need 42 squadrons. And currently we have 30. So we are short. The whole, I think that by 2025 or something, they want to build up some more. That the government has assured that we'll have more squadrons. My biggest desire would be that we get reliable aircrafts to replace the MiG-21s, which is an aging fleet, and it's about time to get rid of that aircraft. Even though it's a fantastic machine, but it's done its life. So squadron strength wise, we probably have 300 aircrafts or something. If you multiply, right now, 18. It's on an average, a squadron has about 18 to 20 aircrafts on average. Like I said, the days of the conventional war, but now for the Air Force, we have is the threat from both sides, from the east and the west, in the northern. So missiles combined with sufficient squadrons are the deterrents. With technology, basically, is the way forward. So technically, my personal opinion is that I don't think we need 42. Like keep building up aircrafts and lining them up, and because those days are. It'll take. I'm not saying that tomorrow, but at some point, squadron strength is about 30 squadrons we have, and this is again open source. It's available, and the chief wants about 42. So I think they might end up somewhere in the middle.
Thank you so much, Squadron Leader Vinod. The thing is, you've literally dropped a bomb on me today with what you said, and I'm so glad you were here because it's like an epiphany. Something has dawned on me suddenly, which never struck me earlier, and I'm so glad I had this interview today.
I have one last message for your audience.
Yeah, sure.
Is that people. We are on social media. Everybody's on social media. And these images and everything is flashed at us, and we see these videos being flashed and sound bites, selectively edited sound bites coming out. The best way to get to is that when people talk, listen to them carefully. So that's it. Like when a leader talks, look at his body language, listen to him carefully, because there's so much of propaganda all over everywhere you look. So Barack Obama, just 3 days back, he said, I don't know if you heard that speech of his. He said in an audience, he said, today's world, it is not only fake news is used to confuse the people, but also bring in fake news to such an extent when, to the main, so the lines get blurred. So eventually we have a world population today, which is not clear what to believe. That picture of the girl stopping a Russian tank, there was a picture initially when the war started, right? There was a girl, 80-year-old girl, talking to the Russian soldiers standing in front of the tank and pointing a finger and shouting. There was a video which came on social media. It turns out that girl was Palestinian and the soldier was Israeli. It just...
Yes. It was a fake picture, yes. Yeah.
So it's being flashed. So, and I sometimes think how easily how gullible we all are. We all are, even we are. That do your own research. That's all. Yeah. Anyway, great. That's my conclusion.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You've touched upon everything, especially things that matter to India. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.